So yeah, I'm Olli. I'm a student ambassador. I am a senior in entertainment arts. I'm kind of between game and animation. I do 3D asset production for games and animation. Um, so we're gonna move on to the tour. So we're gonna, oh, hold on. I have to share my screen first. Screen, start broadcast. There we go. So you guys should be able to see my screen now. Um, and here we go. So this is the College for Creative Studies. Our school is split between two sites. We have the Ford campus and we have the Taubman Center. So the Ford campus is what you're looking at now. And the Taubman Center is just a mile up Woodward. The two are always connected by a 24/7 shuttle service that is just, it's always available, so you never have to worry about getting back and forth between the two campuses. As well as just parking is always available on campus, and that's always free for students. So that's never something you have to worry about if you do have a card. Also, the other catch of it being on my iPad is I cannot disable notifications. It's already on Do Not Disturb, but for some reason they show up anyways. So that's definitely one of the biggest motivations in future switching. Anyway, so moving on, we have the rest of the Ford campus. So the Ford campus houses about half of our majors. So we have our entertainment arts, illustration, crafts and material studies, and art practices, which is formerly known as fine arts, and photography, as well as our art education and foundations departments, as well as the liberal arts department. So we'll get into all of those in a little bit more depth pretty soon. Here we just have some photos of campus. I absolutely adore the oval and just the outdoors part of the Ford campus. It's a very serene feeling. It's very comfortable. I like to go out and sit there at night and just kind of take in the atmosphere of Detroit. So this is the WB. This is the building that houses the illustration and entertainment arts departments, as well as all of the foundations classes and the art education classes. We are going to start off with art education, which I believe is this bubble, nope, which I believe is this bubble, the art education department. So art education is not a major, but it is a 5-year program that students would take alongside any degree of their choosing. So when you graduate, you earn both your BFA in the major that you chose, as well as a teaching certificate, essentially, that would allow you to teach anywhere within the state. And you'd be certified to teach K through 12. So students develop a studio and design practice in their own major, and they also learn the principles of teaching art in a K through 12 classroom. So they're learning how to design lesson plans, they're learning how to think about projects, they're learning about the psychology of teaching. And during their 5th year, they'll student teach and they'll be placed in a local school. And the graduates from this program that choose to go into an education profession have a 100% job placement rate. So then moving on, we have our foundations department, which foundations classes are something that every single student at CCS will take regardless of their major. It focuses on drawing, the fundamentals of digital art, so you'll be learning how to use Photoshop and Illustrator, as well as like the basics of online like portfolio management, like social media, stuff like that, as well as both 2D and 3D design elements. And you'll also be building the verbal and visual language for learning how to look at and critique and talk about artwork. So we don't expect students to come in knowing how to draw. We don't expect them to already have like all of those basic art skills. We do anticipate having to teach some students that. That's totally okay. So then next we have illustration, which is this one at the very end. Yeah, got it first try. Um, so the illustration students are doing a pretty diverse collection of different things. So they can be doing print and package design, portraiture, graphic design, product design, character design, costume design. They can do anatomical or botanical illustrations for science, and so much more. Any career that involves a drawing skill really can be attained with an illustration degree. Our program specifically is very technique driven, so you're learning the fundamentals and then you choose how you want to apply them. They often have visiting artists to come in and give lectures and portfolio reviews, which is really something that you can say about any of our majors. And then also all of the faculty are teaching students how to network, and they're learning how to showcase their work, both in person and online, because social media is a huge aspect of how artists are getting their work out and getting hired nowadays. So it's important to be able to curate your online presence. And the school definitely focuses on that as well. So then we're gonna talk about entertainment arts. So students in this major will learn a variety of skills and techniques that are relating to all parts of the entertainment industry. This major has 4 concentrations in animation, concept design, game, and digital film. They will go on to work as both like traditional and digital animators, storyboarders, 3D character and environment artists for film and games, concept artists and designers, effects artists. There's students that are doing documentary work and editing work and motion graphics and so much. So we're just going to go through a couple of these photos of the WB. This is one. This is one of the sound stages, or not sound stages. It's whatever you want it to be, really. People use it for photography, people use it for filming things, product photography, or just like photographing their artwork. People shoot music videos here, record things here. It can be really anything. And it's all completely free for students to rent out through something that we have called the Audiovisual Center. Which is a resource that students have that lets them be able to rent out camera equipment, lighting equipment, the studio spaces. It's all completely free through the school. It works kind of like a library where you check it out, and as long as you turn it back in, you'll never have to worry about paying a penny to use it, as long as you turn it in on time. So then we can skip ahead and look at some of the photos from the illustration department. You can kind of see what some of their studio spaces look like. And this picture even has some examples of the artwork that students are doing. If you ever get a chance to visit campus in person, walking through the hallway and the illustration floor is just so cool, because it's just floor to ceiling lined with the artwork that the students are doing right now, like that semester. And then we have our entertainment arts major and some of the photos that are associated with it. And also all of these departments have videos that are associated with them. And you can either find those videos on the website or come back and do this tour on our website, which you can access by just going to the visit tab in the top right. Because I really would recommend, especially if there's a major that you're like specifically interested in, to go through and watch the video and actually watch students working and like see what they're doing in class. So the entertainment arts students have access to the green screen studio, which is in the basement. It's pretty cool to go down there and just like be in it. It like definitely makes you feel like, oh, I'm in like a real professional place when you walk into it. And they have their sound recording booth, as well as one of the stop motion sets in the stop motion studio. This is our senior studio. There's a bunch of game students right now working on 3D stuff. And then we have smaller video and sound editing suites as well. So moving on to the Kresge Ford, there's 3 majors that are housed here. There is craft and material studies, art practices, which is formerly known as fine arts, as well as photography. And then the liberal arts department is also housed in this building. So we're gonna find that first. There we go. So liberal arts are something that every single student at CCS is going to take. We're not gonna stay on them too often. or for too long, just because obviously the art stuff is the exciting part of this tour, but it is a mandatory requirement. So you'll have like a handful of English, history, writing, math, sciences type classes each semester, and they're not too difficult. The workload is like reasonable to accommodate for the fact that your studio classes usually have a lot of homework, and they know that students are going to prioritize that. Or they are catering towards like an art-based person or curriculum. So like me personally, I've taken a lot of film history and film theory classes because that like not only pertains to my career, but also pertains to the things that I'm particularly interested in. So there's a lot of variety for you to choose from to kind of satisfy the things that you're curious about. So then also in the Kresge, we have crafts, which is one of these bubbles. That's photo. So we have crafts. So crafts has 5 concentrations. There's glass, ceramics, metalsmithing and jewelry, furniture, and fibers and textiles. The craft students are learning both how to work like innovatively and experimentally with their chosen mediums, as well as learning and building on traditional techniques and processes. The students are all getting a 100% hands-on experience with the equipment, the studio spaces, and even some like newer modern digital tools. And all of our studio spaces in the craft department meet or exceed professional level standards for what would be expected of that studio space if they were to go work in a professional studio. They have access to a variety of like 3D printers and CNC machines and laser cutters and all sorts of things to be able to get their work done, as well as access to the wood shop and the metal shop. So we're going to go through some of the photos from the Kresge real quick. And also all the stairwells in the Kresge are super colorful, and it's very like, it makes me feel very excited when I walk through. They're all completely different. So all of those like big, thick spires, like cylinders on the building, those are all the stairwells. They're pretty cool. It's a maze of a building for sure. So the crafts photos, just so you can see some of the studio spaces. We have the fibers and textiles studio. So fibers takes up most of the 3rd floor of the Kresge, and they have access to a bunch of like dyeing and screen printing and weaving and a whole bunch of things, like anything that is like an experimental fiber or textiles based medium. The students are going to work as surface and pattern designers. They're making fabrics. They are doing color and material specialization. They're working at companies like GM and Nike. A lot of students out of crafts and fine arts will go on to open their own galleries and display in galleries. This is one of the furniture classrooms. And this is the glass studio. And we have a blacksmith shop. There aren't a lot of schools that have access to such a large blacksmithing studio. So the metalworking students are learning not only just how to do like smaller scale, like intricate jewelry and all of the specialized techniques that come with that, they're also learning how to do larger scale work with a full forge and foundry that they have access to. And then the ceramic students are actually also, in addition to all of the electric kilns that they also have access to a variety of outdoor kilns where they're learning how to do wood firings and salt and soda firings, and it becomes sort of like a big community event. I've taken a lot of ceramics electives, and I've really fallen in love with just the way that the studio in general runs. We've already seen those photos. So then we have art practices, which is formerly known as fine arts. They chose to update the name because the term fine arts was rooted in like very like colonialist Western European kind of condescension. It's very pretentious. It's like our fancy paintings are way better than your like lowly craft work, and they used it to kind of elevate their work while shutting out everybody else. And we wanted to get away from that connotation, and so the department has been renamed as of this year and to art practice because it still encompasses what the students are doing without invoking that kind of white supremacist idea of what fine art is. Because the students in the art practice program are encouraged to dig into their own cultural histories. They are encouraged to kind of go into a huge plethora of different techniques and mediums and explore and really like find their niche and find things that they enjoy doing. And they're encouraged to think about the theory and the discourse behind all of the artwork that they're creating and looking at. So you'll see that students in the fine arts department are painting, they're making sculptures, they're doing performance art and video art. We have our letterpress and printmaking studios that are available to the fine arts students. And in their junior and senior year, all of the fine arts students are given their own private studio spaces that they're able to work in whenever they want and always have access to. And then this is a photo of the foundry. It's run through the fine arts department or the art practice department. However, lots of different students from many different majors will end up using the foundry for a variety of different projects. So then second to last, on the Ford campus, we have the ACB, which is one of the dorms that CCS has available. So this is a photo of the inside of one of the dorms. They're just brand new, recently renovated. They all have kitchens and bathrooms and bedrooms that you would share with one other roommate. They're traditionally 4 to 6 people. However, there are some 2 and single person rooms that are usually reserved for upperclassmen. And then there's also the Yamasaki building, which is where all of the school's offices are. So academic advising and registration, financial aid, student life, etc. It's all in the Yamasaki building. So then last but not least, we have photography. So our photography department at CCS offers a balance of traditional photography. So they're learning how to develop things and use the dark rooms, as well as some even older development techniques like cyanotypes and palladium, and as well as modern digital photography. And the students are actually learning how to do a lot of video and motion graphics work as well, just because that's kind of what is expected to keep up with an ever-changing and growing industry. So these are some of these photos of the photo department. So this is one of their studio spaces. This one's actually in the WB. However, the majority of photo is in the Kresge. This is one of their dark rooms. They have very large dark rooms that entire classes can learn how to use together. And they also have access to the stages in the AVC. And the students in this department are also learning how to work with both Photoshop and Lightroom. And they're always off doing something. I think that photo is probably one of the only majors I've ever seen have classes where the entire class will be outside doing something pretty actively throughout a lot of the school year. You'll usually see photo students out in the oval doing something during the day. And then the last thing on the Ford campus is the Manukian Visual Resource Center, which is our school's library. We have access to a variety of different things, as well as an art gallery in the center called the Center Galleries, and a variety of student work that is in the lobby area. So in addition to all of the books that the library has, they do have an extensive film collection that we have access to as well as a variety of different resources from the Wayne State Library, the Detroit Public Library, and more. My personal favorite is the access that we get to the Gnomon Workshop, which is something that caters mostly towards EA and illustration students, but it's a bunch of online classes that are taught by industry professionals. It's usually like a $500 a year subscription, but CCS just gives it to us for free, and it's so cool. So next, we have the Tallman Center. So the Tallman Center houses all of our design-based classes. So ad, communication, fashion accessories design, interior design, transportation design, and product design. And then there's also housing in the Taubman Center. So the dorms in the Taubman are more traditional dorms. They are all one room, but you still have your own bathroom. There are thankfully no communal bathrooms in any of the dorms at CCS. You'll always have your own bathroom in your dorm. And I feel so bad for the college students that have to share a bathroom with like 20 other people on one floor. Like that just sounds not pleasant. And thankfully all of the dorms at CCS are fairly modern and updated too, ever since CACB got renovated. So everything is probably similar to how you're living at home. It's just with a couple extra people in the same room as you. And then also we do have our main bookstore at the Taubman Center. So it's on the ground floor. You can actually usually purchase any of the supplies that you might need to do your assignments right at CCS. And it's usually pretty much the same cost as it would be if you were to go to Blick, which is just down the street, or some other place like Joann's or Michael's. So we're going to be skipping the graduate studies department just because this is an undergraduate tour. However, if you or a family member is particularly interested in the graduate studies classes for any reason, just let me know and I'll point you in the right direction. So the very first major that we have to look at in the Taubman Center is advertising design. The advertising design department is pretty broad. They do not just do the graphic design, like visual aspect to the advertising industry. They really are learning to direct and create entire campaigns and think about it from all angles. The students are learning how to assign and delegate roles and work as a team, just like they would in an actual advertising studio. And the advertising department does put portfolio first because that's what gets you the job. You show up, you show them your portfolio, and they're like, cool. You're not just learning like the theory first and then applying it later. You're doing it all at once. So the students from the ad program end up going into the field as art directors and social media managers, commercials. They'll work on commercials and TV. They'll create user experience, and they will also become copywriters, which are the people that write all of the words that you see in advertisements, because somebody has to come up with all of that snappy, snazzy writing. Detroit is one of the best cities. It's top 10 for advertising and media. And there's top companies that will hire students straight from CCS for internships and jobs. As part of like the interdisciplinary approach to the ad department, the students are learning how to create TV and internet commercials, videos, apps, integrated web and social media design, print ads, billboards, radio spots, websites, and more. They have to think about all of it. It's every single thing that I just listed goes into an ad campaign. So let's flip through some of the photos from ad really quick. Also, something that's really unique that ad does, and this photo I feel like doesn't even encompass it, is if you walk into the ad department, the first thing you see is this hallway that's literally just floor to ceiling. The entire hallway is awards that they've won in various design competitions and advertisement competitions from across the country, and it's pretty neat. It's very impressive to look at. No other department displays all of the accolades that their students have won quite like ad does. You could say it's an advertisement for ad. But yeah, so we're gonna move on to communication design. So communication design is what was once upon a time known as graphic design. However, it is a bit more all-encompassing than that. However, if you are interested in graphic design, that does fall under the communication design umbrella. So the general goal of communication designers is to take complex information and make it simple to understand in a visual format. This can take the shape of graphic design, typography, print material layouts, infographics, editorial design, package design, branding, identity design, time-based media, which is motion graphics, or like an intro to like a TV show or a movie. That's all something that a communication designer might be doing if that's where their interests lie in particular. Website design, user interface design, so the apps on your phone and the actual, like, I don't know what exact word I'm looking for, but like when you just like open your phone, somebody had to design that, like your lock screen and stuff like that. As well as the students here are working with like more experimental virtual reality and projection technology and just a whole plethora of things. And so like the graduates can go out, they can work at advertising firms, they can work at graphic design firms, they can work as a specialist for some company that wants it. And there's a pretty broad selection of things that they have to go with. Also, something that you might notice in some of these photos is that the Taubman Center doesn't have many walls. There's not a lot of rooms. And that's because they have these big like push pin boards that they just drag around as they need to. They're all on wheels, so they can just push them around and make their own classrooms depending on the needs of the classroom or that day. So if they're like presenting more, they have more boards. Or if they want to do like a huge like combined class or department meeting, they can push them all aside, make a giant room and talk to everybody. It really depends on what they need. This is the interaction lab. So this is where they would be working with like projectors or web design or VR, like I was talking about earlier. And then this is just some of the typography assignments that they have been working on. So then next we have fashion accessories design. So this department is educating students in the creation, design, and manufacturing of handbags, leather goods, accessories, hardware, and fashion footwear. So the reason that it's fashion accessories specifically and not just fashion design is that fashion accessories make up 70% of the revenue in the fashion industry. Not many people can afford to buy a $10,000 couture dress, but they can afford to buy a $200 handbag or pair of shoes or a wallet or a watch. And there's not a lot of schools that are catering towards what feels like it should be a niche market, but is actually a very broad market. And so CCS saw that opportunity and created this program. The curriculum for this major is unique because it teaches production design and trend forecasting, as well as merchandising, where other schools would usually divide all of that. But it makes sense for students to know like how their work is going to be marketed and design around that, or vice versa. And the students have access to CCS's broad history of fiber design and metalsmithing and other production facilities, and that's all been kind of gathered all in one spot. And you'll see the fashion design, or the fashion students have access to a variety of different tools that help them create their work, like industrial sewing machines, different traditional shoemaking tools and laser cutters, like a big variety of things. And even like if you ever get a chance to walk into the fashions floor, like it's very like decked out and colorful, and it's very exciting to walk through because they always have new things going on. They have a mannequin that's like covered in glass like a disco ball that they keep in a window, so it actually reflects like disco ball lights around the area. It's a very exciting area to be in. And then they also have access to the color and materials library along with everybody else at CCS. So the color and materials library allows students to kind of go in and check out different swatches of materials, whether it's fabric or wood or some sort of like polymer, plastics, like anything that they might be able to use in their projects and presentations. So next we have interior design. Interior design is not just like picking out paint and furniture for a room. They are figuring out the purpose and function of a room. They are interviewing the people that are going to be using that to make sure that it's actually useful to them and not just look pretty. They're trying to merge the two. And they're creating the spaces that support that intended use, from the lighting, the interior build-outs and architecture, just everything that goes into it, to make sure that it fits the needs and goals of what the space needs to be. So they are also learning how to source materials and construction materials from places that are environmentally sustainable, as well as learning how to try and find things that are locally sourced to support local economies. The department is constantly bringing in local architects and designers into the classroom to kind of impart their knowledge onto our students. And it gives students a firsthand like interaction with the industry to build connections and network. And the students have been previously partnered with Henry Ford Health Systems and the Detroit Public Library, among other things. So they really are designing like important functional spaces for those services. And they are also learning modern technology, from CAD programs to virtual reality, things that are being used in the modern industry that they would need to have access to. Ooh. So then we have our second to last major, which is product design. So the product design students are changing the way that we live and experience the world. They are innovators, they are inventors, and they are doing it all and making it look great at the same time. They are researching the science and the technology behind the products that they are making, and they are also focusing on sustainability, just like the interior design students and really students from all over the school. It is something that is an important thread throughout, like, not just CCS, but the future of design in general is sustainability. So students are working in shoe design, they're working at we have alumni at like tons of different shoe companies, from Nike to Converse, Puma, Adidas, Reebok, etc. They're doing user experience and interface design, toy design, appliance design, medical equipment, sportswear, bikes, lighting, furniture, etc. They really, anything is fair game. If it is a product, if people buy it and consume it, that is something that is relevant to the product design students. And the product design department single-handedly places more students in internships than any of the other departments at CCS. They have very strong local connections with companies, as well as with companies outside of Detroit as well. So then last but not least, we have our transportation design department. So transportation is more than just cars, trucks, and SUVs. The students in transportation are working on bicycles, airplanes, mass transit, watercraft, concept vehicles, like really anything that is a vehicle that moves. That's something that our transportation design students might be working on. Detroit is the motor city. It is the birthplace of the automobile. It is such like a historic and important city in the automobile industry. So it only makes sense that CCS has an amazing transportation design program. And it really does give students an edge when it comes to internship and career opportunities and getting the chance to network with industry professionals. The industry is obviously going through a ton of change right now with autonomous vehicles and like futuristic interface design. And it's just all like moving quickly, and our students are being taught in a way that is keeping up with that. So like sometimes students will be working in sponsored studios, where a company will sponsor a studio. So say like Ford or the US military or a company from Japan or China will come in and they'll say, hey, we have some ideas and we're going to like work with you guys. So you guys are getting industry experience with actual industrial with actual like companies that are designing cars or vehicles or planes, etc. And they work with those companies and create designs around their ideas. And so sponsored studios are something that happen with a variety of different majors, but they're especially prevalent in transportation design. I think they have sponsored studios every single year without fail. And they also are not just learning how to draw cars, like they are learning how to fabricate and actually build 3D models of cars as well. And they have access to a pretty high-tech rapid prototyping shop where they have multiple like six-axis mills and CNC machines and 3D printers and a car-sized spray booth and really whatever they need. So yeah. That is all of our majors. That is the entirety of our tour. So I'm gonna exit this and come back to Zoom and stop sharing. So hopefully that all recorded. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day.